Welcome back to Switched to Linux. Well, today we're going to have a look at another software package that I found. I was just looking around, see what things have just recently come to new versions, and I found this one that I had not seen before, at least not looked at closely before, and that is Digikam. So let's go ahead and talk about this application. So this is used as a photo sorter, like basically it produces a photo database where you can tag, sort, organize, crop, edit, and have access to a variety of other tools. So if you are in, for example, I'm looking at this going, man, there's actually a few things that I do that this is going to be useful, not necessarily for showing images, but if I wanted to, for example, start putting in cool rollovers in the videos, things I've been looking at wanting to do for a while, particularly on my Christian channel where I might show clips relevant to the passages we're talking about. I can actually sort all of those inside of this application to make it a lot easier to find the clips that would help me out. I can also do this for, of course, photographs. So if I want to sort in different things that I might see inside of the Tux Traveler photos, for example, where I might see some of those types of things, I can actually get in here, sort, assign tags, and then easily search and find all these things. Now, there are some downsides that I found to the application as well. We'll kind of get into those. Before we dive into the application itself, this is based on Qt. The current version, which was just released December 4th, is 7.9.0, although I'm using 6.4.0 for this illustration because that is what was in my repositories here on Linux Mint. If I were to install it on Arch, maybe I should have done that to start with. It would have been a little bit, probably a little bit easier to get the newer versions, or at least a newer version. They do have a Flatpak available though, so I could have actually done that and got the newest version, but I tend to only use Flatpaks if I absolutely have to. I didn't see any massive feature changes from one version to the next. And, you know, it might just be something available. Now, this does have, it is cross-platform, so this is not just a Linux application. You can install this on Mac, you can install this on Windows, and I believe they have BSD versions as well. So this application is truly cross-platform, based on Qt, and for the most part, I found it is a little bit more complex to use. I spent about an hour or two figuring out how to use all the different fine-tuned elements of it, and I'll talk about the things that I have found. So let's go ahead and have a look at the application itself. So it is, here's the biggest downside is if you're trying to attach external media, having it automatically import, I did find that a bit laggy, at least utilizing an external hard drive where I have my archives for Tux Traveler at. Now, you do have the option inside of here to configure cameras, and if you set up the particular camera that you have, it should in theory import the photos a little bit easier. I did not test this function, but you can see you have just tons and tons of different cameras, and I have a Canon EOS, and mine's an EOS Rebel SL2. So I'm not sure if this one is, this exact camera's in here. So EOS, we have a couple different Rebel options. I'd have to look to see if the one I have would be compatible with one of these. Otherwise, I could, of course, and usually what I do is I take the camera card out and I put it in. Because this camera is good as it is at taking photographs and imagery like we're doing here on this particular video, the porting photos using a USB cable is slower than molasses. I swear this thing must have like a USB 0.001 alpha or something. I don't know. It is so slow, it takes hours to transmit just simple images. I don't ever plug the camera in. I just take out the SD card, plug it into the computer. That works just fine. However, what I found is that if I go ahead and plug in my USB drive here, and I wait for this guy to register that it shows up, and when you go under the import tag down here, And you can see that we have import USB disk backups. If I go ahead and I click this button, the whole system is going to lag out. Maybe it takes 20, 30 minutes to find the things it's looking for. I don't know. After 5 minutes, if I cannot function and use it, I end up booting up a terminal application and running the kill all. So I would highly recommend not trying to plug in an external USB device and have it automatically grab things. What I found worked out just fine is I just opened up the folder on the computer. I dropped the images that I wanted inside of that particular folder, and then from there it worked perfectly fine. So I'm going to go ahead and boot this guy out because I don't need it running right now. All right. So with that though, the application itself worked pretty well. And just to give you a brief handout of what I did as far as the photos, I didn't want it to just take over my whole pictures folder because what I wanted to do is say, how can I use this as a tool and as a cool application, not just, you know, this or, you know, every photo on my computer does not need to be in here. I wanted to do things I could test tagging. I wanted to do things that I could test video clips and stuff like that. So I went ahead and just created a folder for it called Digikam inside my pictures. And now everything that I want Digikam to see, I just went ahead and dropped in. And then you'll see here that it created these database files. It's using these database files for all its databases. So go ahead and leave those guys alone. But what I did is I came in here and I dropped in some night photographs. I dropped in just a few photos from some of the hikes that I've done recently. I dropped most of this folder in, including a video, just to see how it manages videos. And basically from there, inside the settings, when you first set this up, it asks you where would you like your main database files and folders and organization to start. And this is where I told it to go. You can, of course, go in and make changes to that. When you first start up, here is the type of database. You can use online database servers and things like that. They are still experimental. I just went with the SQLite. You can give it ignored directories. Here is the collections tab. So inside of here, you can say you can automatically sort things. And what I did here is I just told it anything that's inside of this folder in my pictures folder, go ahead and add that and reprocess the library on open. Of course, I can come here and hit this button and refresh that as well. And then you can see that there's connections on network shares and removable media. I'm not going to mess with that because what I found so far is that it seems to lag things out. And so I don't really want that to happen. Inside of the views, we have just a lot of different options. We're not going to run through everything simply because it's a KDE application and there's just tons and tons and tons of settings. But you can go ahead and flip through there and see what there is. It does have some options what you can and can't do as far as the meta tags. You can do different templates. The image editor is going to have a few options. We'll get into that. And then color management, light table, and all sorts of things like that. And so we're not going to spend a ton more time in here. What I want to do is show you how this thing works. So we have a series of tabs along the left side of the screen, and we have a series of tabs along the right side of the screen. So you can get a feel for this, that there is a lot of functions inside of this application. The properties is going to give you the information on the image. Of course, here's the item properties. You can see the Canon. So here's the Canon, here's the model. So you can see this exact model is not specifically in their list. I'm sure I could hook it up if I wanted to. It even is able to tell me what the lens is I'm using. So in this case here, I'm not using the same lens that I'm using right now. It actually is reporting that I'm using my zoom lens here. So you can see it's a zoom, my 75 to 300 millimeter zoom lens, which of course, if you know Crater Lake, this one here is using your basic kit lens, so the 18 millimeter kit lens. Well, this first picture we were looking at is the zoomed in of that one. And so you can kind of see the difference of there. Now, of course, the metadata, if we had like location access turned on, and you could see all that. In fact, there's even a map that if I actually turned if I actually turned location services on the phone or allowed my camera to record metadata as to where the photo is taken, I could actually see a map. That might be a fun thing for Tux Traveler. Turn that on and I could see where all the pictures are across the country. But no, I'm a privacy guy. I'm not going to do that. But it will give us a readout of all the metadata. We can see the color profiles. We do have the map over here as well. These are the captions. So if I want to sort by different captions, I can just click on these guys here and see what the captions are, what the tags are. Let me find one that actually has those in it. Edited tags of image. Oh, that was, my apologies. If you come over here, this is clicking the tags we have. So if I do this, it's going to try and add the tag in it. So if I hit apply, it would do that. But of course, that's not a hot spring, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show you what the tag function does in a minute. Image version, so if I'm using any edits, you can see the old versions of that. And then here's some filters, so I can filter in the any information about it. So you can put in captions. So here's captions and stuff if I want to enter. Let's see. There was a spot to enter captions here as well. I've seen it many times. Why it's not showing up for me right now. All right. But you can put in captures and things like that. And then here we have a variety of different tools. Here's one of the downsides I found. There is an export which exports it to every big tech thing. There's no OwnCloud, no NextCloud, no individual little thing other than external storage or export to local storage. No external, here's your external storage, but there's no like NextCloud setup where I can set up a NextCloud or an OwnCloud or something more private and export to there. But hey, I can export things to Pinterest. Does anybody still use that? Flickr? But you can see it will allow you to export to a lot of the other big services. So I guess if you are using those platforms for backup options, you have that, that ability. Now I'm going to show you the tags over here. So the tags system is going to, any image that has tags in it, it's going to go ahead and pull these out. So mountain peaks is good because I did a mountain peak from Lassen. I did a mountain peak from Rainier. So you can see here's a Lassen mountain peak. Here's a Rainier mountain peak. And up here, we're going to go back to the thumbnails to get back to there. Here's the nighttime photos. So I have nighttime photos from a few different places. Here's rainbow photos. So anything from rainbows is going to show up there. And then wildlife photos. So here I have things from a few different places. So here's wildlife. I have some zoomed in photos of buffalo there. We have a banana slug. Here's some starfish. And then we have, of course, my rattlesnake that I encountered on the way. That was exciting. So you can kind of see here that you have a lot of different options and things that you can do. You can add labels just like you can add tags. So you can do red label, orange label, green label, whatever. You can do different ratings, and you can do pick, rejected, pending, accepted items. I'm not sure what you'd use those for specifically, but it's an option. This will allow you to sort by date. So these ones were done in November of 21. These ones were September. So you can see a few different folders. Mount Rainier, Theodore Roosevelt were September photos. October photos. There's Crater Lake. See if there's any more from October. Mount St. Helens was October. Redwoods. Redwoods is December. There's December. Wait. Hold on. Something does not appear to be working right. That's Redwoods here is telling me December right here, but it's showing up in the October sorts. But when I click in on December here, it's not showing up. I'm not sure why this is showing up in October, or why those redwoods are showing up down here in December. Because I know that those photos were taken in December. So they're not showing up here in the tags right. I'm not sure exactly why that happens to be. But now let's go ahead, let's go back to the images here, and let's play around with some of the image edits and filters and things like this. And so inside of here, we have an image editor. This is your tools. We have post-processing, so we can create calendars. We can create image galleries. So if you're doing something like a website and you want to just create a website gallery, you can go ahead and do this. I'd want to go in and select more than just that to do that, but you can come over here and then select the images, and then there's a variety of different gallery styles you can create, and these are going to basically just be working on some degree of CSS and HTML. Nothing any more complicated than that. So you can play around with what those look like. We do have a panorama. We do have a video slideshow. I did create one of those. I'll show you what that looks like here in a bit. In fact, that is the one that is showing up in our dates down here. This is a video slideshow that was created using the system, and I just told it to save right over here. The only thing I don't like about it is it doesn't crossfade the transition, so it transitions the photo into blur, and then it starts sliding, so it causes this joltiness that is not particularly smooth. So that's something it doesn't seem to do very well. But that's okay. All right, edit geolocation, edit metadata. But what I want to look at is the image editor functions up here, because this does have a lot of cool things to do, from basic image editing up to batch queue management. So this is something that GIMP has, or excuse me, Photoshop has very easily built in, is batch processing. GIMP does not have this by default. I think there might be a plugin for it, but it doesn't have it by default. And what I generally do for batch process imaging is I just use ImageMagick in the terminal. But this actually has an option here where we can go in here and we can do batch emits. So we can, so this is cues number 1, number 2, number 3. We can go in and we can do anything, sharpen the image. We have invert the colors. We have convert it to a different file format. We can adjust metadata. We can remove metadata. So if you want to have a simple filter to remove all metadata, you can go ahead and do that. And then if you want to do more photos than just the one you've selected, you can just grab as many photos as you want and drop them in over here. And then hit run or run all, and then it's going to run the task. Now run's going to run, I believe, all the photos through Q1. Run all will add different queues. So you can see you can add different queues in here, so you can drop different photos into different queues and keep them around. And so you can add all the different functions and tools that you might need to do inside of this, so you can do batch processing of images. But as far as individual images are concerned, when you click on your image editor here, we are going to have the option here to see a variety of different color profiles. And then we will have the ability to run some simple things. So the enhanced ones are all simple. So you can do sharpen, you can do blur, you can do just a few other different options. So there's just a basic thing here. So there we are. We're creating the slight changes. That this does is it puts that little lens flare around the side there. All right. And then I can save the changes or discard the changes. So I'm going to go ahead and discard those. All right. So here is the sharpen. So it'll run some automatic stuff. And then down here, what we do is you can select how much you want to sharpen and then push the try button down in the corner. And then this is going to run your processing down here. And then what you're going to see is you'll see in the upper left-hand corner where it says after right over here. So when you hover over the image, it's going to show you the after. And when you hover back over here, it's going to show you the before. So as you hover on and off the image, it'll toggle between the before and the after. So you can see what effect your processing has on the individual image. And of course, some of these types of filters will take a little bit longer to run. Some will be a little bit shorter to run. Okay, so now it's done running. We'll see we're over here, it's after. And when we hover back on, it's before. So this is before we ran the sharpen filter. This is after. So you can see the slight differences there. Probably only if you're on like an HD quality video. But yes, you can actually very distinctly see the differences. So if I say, okay, that looks really good, then it's going to apply it for real for the image, and then I will have to save the changes up here in the top. I'm going to go ahead and cancel just for the interest of time. But we also have, in addition to your basic enhances, we have all of our transformation type things. We have various effects. So we can do like an oil paint effect. If you want to do color effects, distortions, embosses. And then we also have under our color, so if I want to, I can invert it. Or I can do, just invert it back, and then we can do things like adjusting the levels, which is going to be adjustments of your gamma, brightness, and basically a calculation of the image calculations. So you can do things like this in order to get different effects onto the system or not. You can see this one here, brightening up the gamma, actually brings about some of the landscape images. Again, here's before, here's after the filter. So you can kind of see what the adjustments are going to do. Again, we're going to cancel that so we don't see any extra effects on that. And we'll go ahead and close the editor. We now have the option to save the changes as a new version, save the changes, discard changes, or cancel. I'm going to go ahead and discard changes. So you can see here that you can get in here, you can add your images that you want, you can tag them, sort them, label them, organize them. You can do adjustments as far as the images. Basically, this is a really nice gallery to use. The one warning I would give you is that I did have those lag out problems on an external hard drive. I did not test plugging in the camera. I did not test plugging in the SD card, but I like doing things manually anyway. So for me, going in and putting in the SD card, dropping it into the folder, and then allowing the library to auto-update the folder directly, that's great. If you would set this up to scan your whole hard drive, you would have a big hassle because every little thing you do up and down is going to try and add it into it, possibly including the cache images. It's kind of crazy. And so this tool does have a lot of really cool functions or really cool uses. I like this. I'm actually going to install it on my main system and start using it for some sorting and organization to allow me to find images, clips, photos, and things a lot easier. It'll take a little bit of time to get everything in there the way exactly I want, but I think it's time well worth spent to be able to find and sort things easier so I'm not hunting around for images. Things I didn't cover, it does cover people. You can face tag people. You can actually have it automatically face tag stuff as well. And so these are fun options. Of course, if you have geolocation turned on, you will get the map of where the images are in the world. That's a neat feature for some of you. Not as neat for me as a privacy guy, but hey, what can you do? So with that, have a look at this. This is Digikam. You can find it probably in your Linux repository, Flatpaks. You can download it for your Windows or your Mac computers. And it's definitely worth having a look at for all the fun features and functions that it has. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.